welcome to everyone. I'm Enrico Zimuel. I work for Zend Technologies. I don't know if you already know about the company, but basically it's the company behind PHP. And today here I'm going to talk about the new feature of PHP7. But before to start, I would like to have a little survey in the room. Who is using already PHP7? Okay. PHP 5.6? Okay. 5.5? Okay. You should move to 5.6 at least. Okay, so as I said, PHP, so is a famous computer languages. Is the acronym of hypertext preprocessor. Is actually one of the most popular server-side languages on the web. The statistics of w3text.com say about 82% of all the websites are built with PHP. So it's a huge, huge number. It's used by many popular websites, as you know, Facebook, Wikipedia, Yahoo, Etsy, and so on. It's very long. It's 21 years of usage, so it's very old languages. Of course, it started with like a simple toy, a collection of scripts, and after here it became a robust computer languages, and it's full object-oriented since PHP 5. So it tried to use the best practice of software engineering. The ecosystem of PHP is also very huge. We have a lot of open source software like content management system like WordPress is one of the most famous software on internet. Everyone is using WordPress. We have also a very giant project about e-commerce, Magento, just to give you one name. Is used by many important websites of e-commerce. Also the CRM. There are a lot of projects out there, like Sugar CRM is one of the most famous. Wikipedia is built using MediaWiki, that is an open source project built on PHP. And of course we have a lot of other PHP frameworks. And by the way, I'm one of the maintainers of Zen framework. It's very popular framework. I like other Symfony, Laravel, and so on. So we are talking not just about the languages, but an entire community of software. So people that are using and consuming the software to build website, project, and so on. Huge numbers. So PHP 7, let's focus on the last release. Was last year, 3 December of last year, was released, the 7.0. The last major was PHP 5, about 11 years. So it took 11 years to jump from PHP 5 to PHP 7. So it's also a very long period. And the last release is 7.0.13, just this month, the 10 November. Okay, I mentioned that we moved from PHP 5 to PHP 7. But what about PHP 6? What's happened? So actually, PHP 6 was, they tried to have this release with the community. There was a lot of discussion in the mailing list about the new feature for a major, release. And actually, the only new feature that came out was the Unicode support at the level languages. But at the end of the game, discussion, proposal, nothing happens. So we decided to actually, not release PHP 7 and jump directly to PHP. Not release PHP 6 and jump directly to PHP 7 for a marketing strategy. That's why there is no PHP 6. Even if there are, if you try to Google PHP 6, you will see some, blog posts, even books. I don't know why people wrote books about PHP 6, but you can buy a book about PHP 6. And there is also a nice stand that say you are you can become a PHP6 certified engineer if you want. So you can get this stand that you can put on your laptop. Anyway, this is the deadlines of the version. So this is a very important slide because if you say that you are using PHP 5.5 or less, basically you don't have support anymore. So it's very important to move at least to 5.6 because it's the minimum version that is supported now. Of course, my suggestion is to jump directly to 7, and I hope I will convince you that the benefits are huge. And by the way, when we release a PHP measure version, we support at least 3 years. So PHP 7 will be supported until the 3 December 2018. And actually, there is also a minor release, 7.1, is scheduled by December, I would say, because November is gone. But I put a question mark because we have a lot of release candidates. Should be December, but let's see if it happens. One of the good points of the open source software is that we wait until the software is ready to be released. We don't have any marketing department that push to have the release. So this is one of the plus of open source software. But of course, we have to release something, otherwise people will not use the technology. So it's a balance between the two focus. PHP 7 in a nutshell. One of the most exciting features is the great performance improvement. We achieved an impressive performance improvement because we basically rewrite from scratch the internal of PHP, especially the data structure. So we rewrite from scratch the hash table, the array, everything, the pointer, the internal pointers, and I will show you some benchmarks that are very, very impressive. We introduce a new feature that is the return scalar type declaration. So basically, you can specify when you have a function the type of the parameters that's coming to the function and the type of the return. So we are going with moving slowly to a type of the languages because one of the most criticism about PHP was that it's not a type of the languages, so you cannot actually apply the best practice of the software engineering. You can have unexpected behavior if you pass a string that contains a number with the explicit conversion, automatic conversion, and so on. So it was a critical, point, and actually we fixed it here with PHP 7. We introduce a secure random number generator. So we provide two API, two functions that give you the possibility to generate pseudo-secure, cryptographically secure random number, not just number, but also bytes. We introduce anonymous classes. This is a feature that maybe is interested if you are developing some, framework or library, and you need to create on the fly a class. You can do that. So you can create anonymous classes, very specific topics, I would say. We introduce the SPACESHIP operator. I will show you an example. And also the coalescing operator. Nothing so exciting. It's a way to, write less code, because developers don't like to write a lot of code. So we give these facilities to, speed the code. And this is very important. We introduce a new error hierarchy. So basically, we provide a way to get the error from the engine itself. So this is very interesting because you can, for instance, if you have a parse error, you can actually create a script that gets a parse error or a fatal error in PHP itself. So this was the limit of the languages. So this opens actually new scenarios, even if you are interested in deploy stuff, build automatic tools. This can be very, very nice. And I will show an example. So I mentioned that the most exciting feature is actually the performance. And this is a project started actually 2-3 years ago by Dmitry Stogov. This is one of our colleagues in Zen. Because basically the Zen technologies support the open source community with some help in the development of the internal of PHP. And Dimitri, my colleague, is one of the full-time people on the PHP internals. Me and other colleagues are involved in other open source projects like, as I mentioned, Zen Framework and Agility. And basically, Dimitri rewrote from scratch the internals of the data structure of the language. And this is actually provide very, very great performance improvement. This is just an example. We are a very stupid script, a PHP script that creates 1 million of an array of 1 million of elements, where each element is itself an array, a simple array with just a string. And we are just printing the memory get usage. If you run this script on PHP 5.6, you can get this is the memory usage, more than 400 megabytes. With PHP 7, it's just 33 megabytes. So an impressive performance improvement. Even from the execution time, we pass from basically half a second to 0.06 seconds. So it's very, very impressive. If you try to compare PHP with other scripting languages like Perl, Python, and Ruby, that is an example of a benchmark. Basically, it's a Mandelbrot fractal. So it's just an iteration of a mathematical function. It's the Mandelbrot set. I don't know if you're familiar with the fractal. It's very famous images. So if you run the script on this platform, you get basically this execution time. Of course, lowest is better. So we have the PHP 7 wins on all the other scripting languages. Even with the Python 3, because this is Python 2.7.8, if you link, and by the way, I will give the slide, I will publish the slide on my website. This is zimuel.it, my surname. So the slide contains, because basically this presentation is itself a website. It's a presentation using Reveal.js. When you see the blue text, that means this is a link, so you can click in and have the details. So it's very, actually the fast scripting languages out there so far. This is another benchmark using WordPress. Using WordPress 3.6 and WordPress 4.1, you can see the jump from PHP 5.6 to PHP 7 is basically the double. This is the request per second. I put here also HHVM. HHVM is a project by Facebook to create a just-in-time compiler for PHP. It's a very nice project. But the performance are interesting because even if you're not using a just-in-time compiler for PHP 7, the performance are comparable with the just-in-time technology. So this is very surprising, I would say, because as a software engineer, I expect that if I have something that is compiled in some way, it should be much faster than an interpreted script, right? But in real use cases, using, for instance, WordPress, are almost the same, as you can see here. Of course, if you run a specific benchmark just to iterate on array, data algorithm, stuff like that, you will see big performance improvement if you compare HHVM with PHP 7, of course. But in real use cases, the performance are almost the same. So this is very interesting results. And there are a lot of big companies that actually moved to PHP 7. So they had an application with PHP 5. They moved to PHP 7. For instance, Badoo. Badoo is a very popular dating social network website with a lot of million of users. They moved from PHP 5 to PHP 7, and actually they saved $1 million per year because of this change in technology. Because basically they reduce a lot of server to use for the deployment. Because PHP 7 is almost is very, very fast. Also Tumblr. Tumblr is a microblogging website, very, very famous. And they basically reduce the latency and the CPU load by half, moving to PHP7. So huge performance improvement. And there is also Dailymotion. There is a video sharing website, also very, very famous. The same. They basically handle twice traffic with the same infrastructure. So very interesting. And as I said, if you click on the source, you will see the blog post of the specific case study. Okay, let's see some code, new feature of PHP7. So as I mentioned, you can add the type of return in a function. So for instance, in the first example, we have a function foo. And as you can see, you have this colon. This is a new syntax. And you can specify the type of the return. Nothing exciting, but very important for software engineering. This is another example. You can also specify not just the internal type of PHP, but also the class, the object, the class of an object. So here you have the date time. That is an internal class of PHP for date manipulating. If you return something that is null, for instance, this is invalid. So we'll throw an error. As I mentioned, you can do also the typing of the parameters. So this is an example. We have a function that is send HTTP status. They accept two parameters. The first is an integer. The second is a string. And as you can see, you can specify the type of the parameters before the name of the variable. So if you try to send a number and a string, okay, it works because, as I said, this is an int, this is a string. If you try to pass a string as an integer, you get a fatal error. In order to get this strict check, you have to insert in your script, at the beginning of your script, this declare. Declare strict types equal 1. Why? Because, moving from old project to new one can be tricky. And if we just assume that in PHP7 everything will be strict typing, basically we are going to break all the software written in PHP so far. So that's why we give the possibility to switch between this. So if you don't write this first line, basically the second example, send HTTP status, will continue to work because the string is automatically automatically converted to an integer. That's the usual behavior. Even if it's strange, there's a behavior of PHP. There is a question over there.
Is that possible to declare it in myphp.ed?
No, it's not. This is by design. Because, as I said, we want to give the possibility to specify for each file. You can do a trick. You can add automatic prepend script, something like that. You can do that. But we didn't insert in the PHP INI because you can break all the application behind your environment. So. I also mentioned that we had random number generator from secure random number generator. Of course, PHP had the random generator of C, but this is not usable for security stuff because it's not so random. Basically, as you know, is a deterministic function with a giant cycle, and after million of cycle, it starts to give you the same number. So it's not really pseudo-random generator. We had this new API, this random int and random bytes, that, by the way, go inside the environment of your system and try to get information, random information from the dev, random, stuff like that, doing some mixing function. If you are curious, you can see the implementation of these two functions. But the user is very simple. So if you need some numbers, random number, integer number, we have random int. You specify the minimum and the maximum. And we also provide the random bytes. So you can easily generate, for instance, here 1 kilobyte of random string. I strongly suggest just to be secure, sure, that you are really using a pseudo-random number. When you move to PHP7 to find and replace your random generator using this to function. Another question, okay?
What about the seed of the random generator?
Sorry, I didn't.
What about the seed of the random generator?
It's automatically get by the internals PHP. If you want, you can specify the seed, but it's used by, for instance, the dev random as the seed. There is also something like the PID, the number of the PID. There are some stuff over there, but this is just if you use this to function as is, you are secure. You can be sure that your pseudo-random number generator are the state of the art of the actual implementation. So.
I saw some comments with moving from Windows to Linux distribution.
Yeah, I told just about Linux. So if you want to know more about Windows, there is a Microsoft over there. So you can ask to Microsoft. Yeah, the old random number generator have a lot of problem on Windows because the seed was not corrected set. There is a very simple trick that you can do. If you try to print to generate an images with the dot and black and white pixel of the bytes of the random number generator that you get, you just print. You create this box. You will see immediately the pattern on a Windows machine because you have lines. So this is clearly not random. If you see something noise, like when you open the television, I mean the old television, because now everything is digital, so it's difficult to reproduce white noise. But if you have an old television, you put on empty channel, you will see this noise effect on. So you should see something like that to be sure that everything is random. Anyway, if you care about security with PHP, I suggest to use these two functions. And from my point of view, of course, the Linux environment are the best for
It's not about using Linux or Windows, but you are proposing a form of code that should work in any kind of situation.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
It's not only about Windows. You should care about Windows too.
No, I care about Windows. That's why we fixed this random number generator. So, but the first release of the PHP on Windows was the implementation was not so good. So we did a lot of work to try to, because the system is completely different. So it's not so simple. Anyway, now Microsoft, by the way, is supporting open source officially. So we are a big family now. Okay, anonymous classes. Very simple example. You can create on the fly a class, anonymous class. There's an example. You can return a new class, whatever, that implements whatever. Very simple. Or you can just have a class. You can create on the fly an object that is an instance of a new class that extends the class itself. Something like, looks like magic, but it's actually just a way to get objects on the fly for a specific class. And this actually can be very useful if you are doing unit testing. And I hope you are doing unit testing. Actually, let me do a little survey. Who is doing unit test in the code? Okay. TDD? Okay. Expect less hands. Okay, so if you are doing unit tests, this can be useful because you can create on the fly, object of classes. You can mock. You can do nice stuff. Spaceship operator. This term, the spaceship is very nice. but actually it's just an operator that give you basically compare two arguments, the first A and B. So if A is equal than B, the result is 0. If A is greater than B, the result is 1, otherwise is -1. So nothing so exciting, but basically with one line of code you can get you can check these three behavior instead of have if, else if, whatever. So can be useful. And of course you have also the SPACESHIP operator for the alphabet order. If you compare a string, there's an example here. We are comparing two string A and B, and as you can see, AA is 0, AB is -1, BA is 1 because B is alphabetically after A. We had this coalescing operator. So basically, with double question mark, this is an example. You can get the username is, we are checking if the $_get user basically exists. If it's not, we we assign the nobody string. So this is basically equivalent in PHP 5.6 to is set $get user, then I get the value, otherwise I get nobody. So we are lazy, we are developers, so we want to write less code, and this is a way to, very minimal, but the interesting stuff is the last example. You can chain actually the coalescing operator. So here we are getting the user. If it's not empty, we are trying to get the post. If it's not empty, we get the post. If it's empty, we get the nobody. So it can be nice to have not really readable, to be honest, at the beginning, but you know, this is a tool. You can do the damage. You know what I mean? So, is that question? Okay. The interesting part about the new engine of PHP is the error handler. So as I mentioned, we introduced this new throwable that is the main class of error. So the root is the throwable. It contains the error and the exception. So the exception are the usual exception that you throw in your application. The error are the type of internal error of PHP. So for instance, you can, here we have an example where we create a function and we are just passing the object, an object, and we are calling a specific method of the object inside the function. If we try to call the method with a null, this is a fatal error. So if you try to execute this on PHP 7, basically you can, this is the catch, the part that will catch the error. And this actually is an internal error of the PHP. So you can get, you can manage basically fatal error, as I mentioned, also parse error, type error, and stuff like that. So this opens actually new scenarios in your application. You can just try, if you have a giant application built on a framework, usually you have an index.php file where you basically execute the application in some way. You can just put a try and catch error in this execution of application, and you can manage the internal error of your application in a very simple way. So I suggest to have a look at this new possibility. But it's not just the feature that I mentioned. There are a lot of other features, of course very specific. Like for instance, we have the consistent 64-bit support for Windows. So you can be sure that 64-bit on Linux and Windows are the same, managed from PHP 7. We fix some behavior of strange, function in PHP. You can check all the features on php.net. Okay, I would like to spend just 2 minutes also talking about PHP 7.1. That is, as I mentioned, the new minor release that will come hopefully next month. This is actually a minor release, but contains also nice new feature like the nullable types. So basically, we leveraged the null as a real type in the internal of PHP. you can actually specify, because as I mentioned, we can specify the type of a return function. You can specify now avoid return types, so a function that returns nothing explicitly. There is the deprecation of mcrypt extension. So who is using mcrypt? WordPress uses, yeah, I know. Okay. So basically, we deprecate this extension because it's very outdated. I think it's 4 or 7 years that no one commit a change in the library. So that's why we decided to, because it's a security, library for encryption, cryptography. So we decided to deprecate it. That means you can continue to use, but you will see the deprecation error message. I strongly suggest to move to OpenSSL for the cryptographic stuff, even because in 7.1 you will get a very nice, very important and very nice feature for cryptography. That is the authentication encryption. So finally, after a lot of years, we won the battle. And we support the authenticated encryption, the ZCM, Galois counter mode, and CCM modes of OpenSSL in PHP. So that means you can encrypt and authenticate string, file, whatever, on the fly, without doing stuff like first encrypt and after authenticate using HMAC, whatever. So it's very nice because it's managed by OpenSSL, so you don't need to do stuff in PHP. Everything is managed by OpenSSL. And it's very, very fast, especially in Galois counter mode, ZCM, because the ZCM works in parallel, basically, as an encryption model. So you will get very, very nice performance and security improvement. So I really strongly suggest to have a look at this. And actually, I wrote a blog post about that, because I care about security. I wrote a lot of library for encryption, stuff like that. So if you go to my website, you can check it out. A post specific for contains this information and how to use it in PHP. Okay, we had also other feature, but I don't want to spend more time on that. So basically, I almost done. If you want to contact me, this is my email address, enrico.zimuel@roguewave.com. Actually, you can also use my old web address, that is enrico@zen.com, because I'm the only Enrico in the company. But 2 years ago, Zen was acquired by Roguewave company, a US company. So that's why now we are moving to this new email address. My blog and website, as I mentioned, is www.zimuel.it. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter. And I think we have some time for a question. So if you want to ask me something, if I can reply, or if you want to say something, here there is a mic, so send your hands and we'll see. Question? I'm sure there are questions. Come on. No question, really? Okay.
The first thing is it's are we like Java now, okay, in PHP? What you think? And are there any plans to address legacy function with underscore function and so on?
But you mean specific for the Java bridge, or?
No. Older function
okay,
which don't there are PSR standards now in PHP.
Okay.
The language is going to adhere to these standards, or
okay, this is an interesting question. Yeah. So basically, you say that if the language itself is going to be compatible with the PSR 7, PSR star, whatever standard. If you're not familiar with the PSR, so basically PSR are the PHPFIG initiative, so it's a group of people, actually group of the main contributors of the project out there of PHP, and try to have a common standard to be sure that the code written in Zen framework can be used by Symfony and vice versa, whatever, especially now that we have a standard for HTTP messages. So talking about middleware, this is a very cool feature. There is not direct interaction actually between the internal of PHP and the PHPFIG. Of course, there are a lot of people that are part of PHPFIG and at the same time of the internals. They try to, move the direction of the next version of PHP using the PHPFIG, but actually there is not any project out there. So I hope that the next version of PHP will try to adopt the new PHPFIG, especially for the HTTP messages, because working with underscore, $_get, post, whatever, is not so nice. And would be very amazing to have the PSR 7, for instance. But I think this the next measure, not really short period. Another question?
I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
And the first is with the advent of Node.js.
Okay.
As an agency, as a group of people that work in this big world of PHP, are you scared about it or what?
No, absolutely. If technology is good, we are happy. So we are not, the cathedral of PHP. We are not, we want to be open. So we really care about, we are software engineers. So the best technology wins. And we are also open to other, technologies. There are a lot of projects that mix together, Node.js, PHP, Java, whatever. It's nice to have, multiple, different scenarios that talk together. Of course, we are comparing, Apple with banana because they're completely two different languages. Yeah. We also, for instance, I'm one of the maintainers of Appagility. Appagility is an open source project written in PHP for API building. We basically, 2 years ago, we decided to implement Appagility in Node.js, and it was very, very nice. And actually, I did all the implementation in Node.js, and maybe, and actually this is news that I give you worldwide, maybe in the future of Appagility, you will see also something related to other languages, like Node.js.
Okay.
So we are very open.
The other one is if there are any chances to see a compiled bytecode version of a PHP file in the future.
You mean a compiled version of PHP?
PHP is still interpret.
Yes. If you want to go to compiler or just-in-time compiler, you can use HHVM.
I know that, but it's not native from you.
I don't think so, because we did this experiment actually before to rewrote the internals of the data structure. As you can imagine, was a huge project. We tried to write a just-in-time compiler for PHP 5, like HHVM, but we failed. I mean, the result was not so exciting from a performance point of view. And Dimitri said, okay, but in my opinion, the real performance issue was the internal data structure, and actually was right, because just rewriting that, you saw the performance improvement are incredible. So that's why we moved to this other project. So I don't see in the future just-in-time compiler, at least for the next 2 or 3 years. So,
okay, thanks.
I think that's it. We have Okay, 2 minutes. Another question? I'm sorry, I don't have any gadget price to throw you. But I have water. If you would, next question, you will get a glass of water. A question?
I want to ask you. There is a young project, WebAssembly. Do you there is means to maintain this project, so to create a compiler to WebAssembly?
I don't know about that, so sorry. I have no idea. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you for your attention.